Surprise, motherfucker! The king is back!
Welcome back to another episode of the Outside the Octagon podcast. This is what, Jude, episode 5 for us?
Episode 5.
Episode 5. Tomorrow, I know we're recording this on a Sunday. Tomorrow will be my 21st birthday. Super excited. Things are about to be live. And this is episode 5. We're coming at you outside the Octagon. I'm your host, Charleston Payne. Hopefully the transcript's able to get it right again. They've been having a pretty good track record lately, wouldn't you say?
Sir.
Everything's been kind of flowing for us with the whole transcript thing as far as getting our names right. Well, Jude's a little close. The spelling's a little off sometimes. But at least it's not like Charles Dupain, whoever that guy is.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy is, but he's getting famous off something that he should be getting famous off of, man.
But this guy is that guy. I'm Charleston Payne, alongside the other that guy, Mr. Jude Starnes over here to my left, obviously.
With no E.
With no E. Jude, Starns, no E.
Sir.
Find us on Google. No, not yet. We haven't reached that level of height yet. But I'm very excited to be back behind the mics yet again, Jude. Another week, another episode. A lot of stuff to cover this time.
Yes, sir. We appreciate the viewers and the subscribers. The count's steady rising, and we're getting to where we want to be. So
Right. Make sure you guys, if you're listening on YouTube via the camera footage, make sure you guys just go click that subscribe button. It's not that complicated. Just hit the subscribe button. Give us a little thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed it. Drop a comment. Leave us some new topics to talk about in the future videos. You know, like we take advice from everybody. Whatever you guys want us to talk about, we'll cover it in the next podcast if you just drop a comment. Not that hard to do. But before I get any farther, your turn, Jude. Where would you like the Instagram to be at?
let's see. Right here, right above the new Jiri poster that we have on the wall now. So
Yeah, and that's only going to get better. Like right now, we just got the little small Jiri poster. He's going to be the centerpiece for the other 3 posters that we have coming in, which is Max Holloway, Nate Diaz, and Johnny Bones Jones. So the podcast studio, as we may call it for right now, is currently rising. It's on an upgrade. So excited to bring all that stuff to you guys and have some more of a little background for you to see for this thing we got going here. But Jude, without further ado, last night we had some great fights. I think to open it up, I think we need to talk about Derrick Lewis, the Black Beast. He does it again, man. He takes the cup out, throws it in the crowd to the media team. Like, what'd you make of that?
you never know what he's going to do. I mean, regardless, he's an entertaining fighter to watch. So you can't go wrong watching a Derrick Lewis fight. Most knockouts in heavyweight history, maybe in UFC history. I could be wrong there. A lot of knockouts. He does it in some crazy ways. The Black Beast is always entertaining to watch. And even if you don't like watching fighting, how could you not love to watch the comedy after the fight and his post-fight interviews? My balls is hot, notorious line, and so many more.
Yeah, there's so many incredible lines that Derrick Lewis drops on you. You know, there's a lot. Joe Rogan likes to use the word wild card a lot with fighters. Like, oh, he's a wild card. You never know what he's going to throw. Oh, he's a wild card. He might take you down or come through with a right hand, overhand right. Derrick Lewis is a wild card if I've ever seen one. And it has nothing to do with his fight style.
And his fight style is kind of crazy, though, in itself, too. Like, he can just go from, like, not being in the fight, like, he just doesn't look like he's there mentally, and then just out of nowhere, he decides he's fixing to knock you out, and then he starts throwing everything in the bag.
I can tell you this right now from watching probably, like, 10 to 15 Derrick Lewis fights over the course of my life. I can tell you this right now. I don't think I've ever seen a Derrick Lewis fight. He looks mentally prepared whenever he's just doing the stare down in the octagon before that bell starts and you start fighting. But he always, every fight starts out like he doesn't know what the hell he's doing in the octagon.
Yeah,
like he did the same thing last night. And then out of nowhere, it's like the announcers were saying, like something clicks in his brain and he's like, okay, I got to get up and knock this dude out. And then that's what happens. Every Derrick Lewis fight you'll ever watch, unless it was the flying knee fight, where he just ran out, drops it in there, and it's over. Puts the guy to sleep, you know?
And speaking of Derrick Lewis, even though he's raised in Houston, he's born right here at home in New Orleans, Louisiana. So that's cool, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, kind of a hometown guy for us as well.
So, you know, I think that it would only be right if Dustin Poirier and Derrick Lewis come home to New Orleans and fight right here in the Crescent City.
Right. I think they should do like a little retirement thing for those guys.
Yeah, we need a fight in Louisiana. Dana White, give us a fight in Louisiana, and I want to oil you up.
I would be fine with just a fight night, dude.
I don't
Like,
care. Just come here.
You seen the gate that it brought when you brought it back to St. Louis for the second time ever. Like, the gate was the highest selling fight night gate ever in UFC history.
And hopefully,
they brought in so much sales.
And hopefully with the new basketball arena being built, maybe we can get a fight in there. And Brendan Allen's up and comer from Covington, Louisiana. So
right.
Hopefully he'll be able to get us a fight here when he's the champion of the middleweight, because he's running through the middleweight, and we've talked about that already. Hopefully we'll be able to have him on one day. Once again, saying that again, but great fighter. Love to watch him, and he's right here at home. So
incredible to watch. And I mean, like you said in the last episode, it's not very often you get a middleweight or heavier type of guy that is so great on the ground at jiu-jitsu. They could literally submit you in any given way. Like that. That's not a very big middleweight division thing. You don't see those guys come through middleweight, light heavy, or heavyweight very often. You know, and I'm pretty sure you fully agree with that. Like, when's the last time you seen a guy in middle, light, or heavyweight that were just absolutely ridiculous with jiu-jitsu?
I mean, George St. Pierre was great on the ground. They've had them and stuff, but it's not often.
It's few and far between.
And he's got so many submissions under his belt, and he's already got a lot of those to go early on in his career. He looks like the Charles Oliveira of the middleweight division. Still young, only 28, 29 years old, somewhere in that area. So he's still got a lot of fighting left to do, and I'm excited to see how his career progresses.
Right. I mean, he's just now crawling into his prime. You know, he's still got growing to do as a fighter. And I believe that's scary to think about.
He's so underrated, too. He's so underrated. You don't hear his name a lot, but he deserves that title shot. He's beat a lot of good guys.
I mean, he certainly deserves a title shot. Like, if you're going to throw these 10 guys a title shot and feed them to the wolves, I don't see why you can't give the number 6 guy a shot at the middleweight division. You know, and I'm not necessarily like talking down on the guys that have been in that number 10 spot in the contenders and get the title shot. I'm not talking down on those guys by any means. I think for the most part, the guys that have had that opportunity deserve that opportunity. I mean, Strickland won the belt from the 10 spot. Urseg possibly got the biggest robbery in history, because I thought he definitely won that fight. I think the only way that wasn't Urseg's fight is in the 5th round whenever he went for a takedown. I think had he not went for a takedown, he probably would have won the fight.
Yeah, I don't know. The judges were kind of bad that night, to be honest, in Brazil. But
I feel like the judges have been off a pretty good bit recently. Like Sean Woodson, wasn't that his name that you had last night? I mean, he got beat down for 3 rounds and won by decision, unanimous. Yeah, like, how do you win a UD and get absolutely beat down for 3 rounds?
I don't understand. A lot of these judges are boxing guys, and I don't know. It's kind of fishy. I don't like the judges. Let's take them out of it. I mean, you see PFL, the AI judge is working great. So I like the AI judge. That takes all bias out of it and really judges the fight as a whole, because UFC and boxing is 2 different things to judge. So you have to judge ground control time, submission possibilities, and stuff like that. So it's way more to it than boxing. So you can't just pull a random judge that judges boxing and has never fought in MMA and put him in the UFC and expect him to be good.
Right. I mean, speaking of boxing, did you hear about what happened last night in the women's fight for the belt?
I did not.
So the women's fight, I don't remember the names of the fighters, but the girl that held the belt, they're making the decision, like the unanimous decision or the split decision that came in, and it was like 94-94 draw. The next judge scores it like 98-92 or something, and the next judge scores it like 94 to like 90 or something. I don't know. Split decision win. The announcer calls the wrong name. They wrapped the belt around the girl and said, "And still," gave her the "and still" belt, threw it around her. She walks around the ring with the belt for a minute. Then the announcer's like, ladies and gentlemen, hang on. After like 2 minutes of this girl like flexing, she just won the belt. They call them back to the center with the judge while they're still, because you know boxing's a shit show as is. There's going to be 150 people in the freaking small ass ring every single fight at the end of it. They had to clear them out a little bit to give a little bit more room in the center of the ring. Then he makes the announcement again. The scorecards were still the same. He just said the wrong name. So he had to flip it around to the "and new," and give the girl that won the championship the belt. Like, literally completely butchered the call. Which, I mean, happens, you know? Like, I've seen Buffer, like, miss the call, but he fixes it sooner.
Yeah.
If the call's missed. Like, you don't let...
instant,
especially not with a... You never see Buffer mess up on a championship belt.
No.
Ever. And then, if he were to, like I just said, he's going to come back and fix it very quick. He's not going to let you walk around, flaunting the belt, you know, walking around like you just did something, and then take it back off of you and be like, my bad, and new. You know, like, I think
it's, I mean, boxing, what are we doing? Boxing, it's a joke at this point. It's like every fight you watch to us, it's like a middle school dance, as I've said before. Like a social or whatever. It's a joke at this point. So,
and it's kind of sad, man, because growing up for me, I was more boxing than I was UFC for a while. Probably until the point I was probably like 10, 11 years old is when I started to realize, okay, boxing's kind of on a downhill slide. Because then at that point, you know, Mayweather's fighting these 44-year-old guys and nobody's actually going to take the belt from him. You know, none of these guys he's scheduled up to fight is going to take the belt from him. I mean, it's once every 3 or 4 years nowadays that you actually get a good boxing fight to watch. And all they do the whole time is just sit there and hug each other. Like Jude said, it looks like an 8th grade social. Every time you sit down and watch boxing. And it's unfortunate because I really do love the sport. And I wish it could come back to the prominence that it once had.
And while we're on the topic of rules, shifting back to the UFC kind of, I wanted to talk about this. So Paul Acosta said something that was very interesting. And I really like it because I want to see the sport get better. So I'm not opposed to rule changes that I think would make it better. He says that he thinks in between rounds, they should have a scoreboard with what the judges score each round. After every round, put the score up. So there's no question. And I like that too. And a lot of people would say, well, that's going to lead to guys that's winning the fight in the first 2 rounds. They're just going to go for a decision in round 3. Yeah, you can say that. But if it's a close fight, the other guy's going to try to go for a knockout maybe. He's going to put more pressure on, and that could lead to more knockouts.
Right.
Off the counter. So I would like to see that. In every other sport, you have scorecards or scores live. So why can't we do that in UFC and boxing? That'd be awesome.
I think it would be incredible. I mean, ever since you brought that idea on to me and told me that Paulo Costa had came up with the idea and started saying that, I mean, I think that's an incredible way to build the sport even more. Like, I mean, like I tell everybody as is now, and like I've said in past episodes, the UFC is on a steady rise. You know, it's going up. There's not very many changes that you could make to make it better. I think that is certainly one of them, though. I mean, like boxing's just been here for a very long time. It's been mid.
And it probably it'd probably be way downhill. A lot of one fight that brought a lot of people back to boxing was McGregor and Mayweather. So
right.
I mean, but McGregor, anywhere he goes, he's gold. So he's going to bring the money anywhere he goes. So I'm excited to see his return. Love him or hate him, he's an entertaining guy. One of the best trash talkers up there with Chael Sonnen. You can't beat the guy.
Have you heard the news about 303 yet?
Well, I have not.
Already broke the record for the highest gate in UFC history.
Not shocking at all.
Dude, we're what? A month and 17 days out. At the time of this recording, we're a month and 17 days out. So about 30 or 47 days, 48 days from being able to see the McGregor fight. And it's already shattered the records. And that's not even giving you pay-per-view numbers because I don't even think you could buy the pay-per-view yet.
No. Yeah.
So Conor just brings so much attention and so much value to anything he touches. Like, I've never seen anybody carry themselves so well. And that's one thing I think more UFC fighters should do. Is brand themselves as fighters, because all you hear about is fighters complain, oh, fighter pays bad, but you're already on the highest level of fighting. Like, you've reached the highest stage. Why not try to brand yourself into something different? Like Mighty Mouse starting a YouTube channel and streaming, Max Holloway starting a YouTube channel, Sean O'Malley YouTube channel, podcast, streaming. Like, why not take what the UFC has given you and already putting you on this high pedestal and build a brand out of that? Then fighter pay wouldn't even matter, because sure, you're going to get that nice check, because regardless of whether you think fighter pay is bad or not, I mean, the lower end guys are still making $10,000, $15,000 just to show up.
Yeah.
You know, so it's at the end of the day, if you're making 10, 15 grand just to show up, take $2 or $3 grand, do what Jude and I have, get a computer, get a camera, get a soundboard, get some nice microphones, and brand yourself as a person outside of fighting, because people want to see that. People want to hear your story. And there are so many new ways to share it. You could go through TikTok, YouTube Shorts, YouTube full-length videos. I mean, there's so many Instagram Reels. I can't even name all the different ways that fighters could go brand themselves and make so much money outside of fighting to where fighter pay wouldn't even be an issue anymore.
Yeah, for sure. It's like NIL deals. It's just like that in college football. Technically, these guys don't get paid anything, but they're making hundreds of thousands a year off NIL deals. But you're starting to see that more and more. Like Dan Severn and Don Fry have a podcast. Hopefully, we can get those guys on someday, because those are two absolute legends. And so you're seeing that, and then Poirier hot sauce. Hopefully, we can get that sponsorship as well. But
Facts. I mean,
so you see a lot of guys are proper 12 even. So, a lot of guys are starting their own brands and companies, and I like to see it. So,
and you don't even have to be that great on the mics, like as far as like talking smack and all that stuff and building a fight. Like at the point where you're just able to brand yourself is where you really reach a new level. Because I'll tell you this, I've probably watched 2 Sean O'Malley's press conferences ever, because he's one of the most boring fighters on the microphone and building up a fight that I've ever seen in my life. All he does is says, "Oh, I can't wait to knock him the F out." Every single press conference. Name one thing Sean O'Malley said other than that, and other than telling Sean Strickland, at least my dad didn't, F me. But because I'm not going to preferably try to use that word on here, because the censor is not going to work for YouTube.
yeah.
but I mean, name one other Sean O'Malley moment on the mic where you were like, "Oh wow, he really got him with that." You can't, because all he does is he'll let the other fighter talk. Like if it were me and Jude and I'm Sean O'Malley here, I would let Jude rant for a cool 2-3 minutes, and I'll be like, "You guys ready to see me knock Jude out?" That's what it is. Every single O'Malley fight. But then you go watch his podcast and it's different. And you know why it's different? Because he branded himself well. He took the position that he's gotten with the UFC and branded the name Sean O'Malley, and not just a fighter Sean O'Malley. That's what McGregor's done. That's what Poirier's doing with the hot sauce. That's what Mighty Mouse is doing with YouTube. Max Holloway's doing with YouTube. I mean, these guys actually are smart and branding themselves with the opportunity they're already given, because clearly being in the UFC, you have a platform. There's people that watch these fights. They know your name, but if you're not doing anything with your name besides just going up there and fighting, you're not going to make much money.
Yeah, and everybody's got to retire at a point, so
that's why I'm saying.
I mean, you got to find a way to make money after UFC, because you can blow through that money quick. So.
I mean, look at Chael Sonnen. Chael's got a YouTube. I completely forgot to mention Chael Sonnen. I watch Chael Sonnen's YouTube almost every day.
DC.
He's got 1.1 million subscribers. He makes more money doing YouTube than he probably ever did. He probably makes more money through 5 YouTube videos now than what he did throughout his UFC career.
Probably.
And that's all you have to do is just brand yourself. Use the valuation in your name that the UFC has given you and take it to the next level for you. And that's the best thing I could say to fix the whole fighter pay issue.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys, too, with just great stories that I'd love to hear and share. So, I would like to see more guys have YouTube. But speaking of, a guy that I really wanted to talk about, and he was on the card last night, Terrence McKinney.
Right.
I mean, you cannot blink when he fights. I love to watch him. A win or a loss from Terrence McKinney is always going to be exciting.
It's always exciting.
Because he's going to give it his all, no matter what. He got knocked out in, 9 seconds last night. Great fighter. And look into his story. He has a really great story.
Right. Definitely take a look into that.
He went from overdosing twice to being in the UFC. So, great story, great fighter. Great person. I'd love to have him on and let him share the story on the podcast for you guys to hear.
Not only did he go through two separate overdoses, but within 2 years, he built himself back. That is one of the most inspiring stories in this game that I've seen. I mean, the guy overdosed twice and nearly died twice, and 2 years later, he's out there beating guys down in the UFC and was on a pretty solid win streak up until last night.
Yeah, and how could you not love a guy like that?
Right. I mean, there's no way you can go into a fight hearing and knowing his story. I'd be like, "Oh, I absolutely hate T-Rex. I hate Terrence McKinney."
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to hate that guy.
Yeah, you'd have to legitimately be ignorant in order to hate somebody that is completely turned their life around and doing something incredible for themselves. Even if you're not a fight fan, even if you don't like fighting, that guy was still just a regular guy on the streets that died, pretty much. That overdosed and died and came back and is now a fighter.
Yeah,
like how could you not respect that?
And so many great stories. As we grow, we're gonna have guys like that on, and you're gonna hear their stories on this podcast. So just stay tuned for that. Another fight that I want to talk about was Joaquin Buckley. So impressive last night. I did not expect him to be that good on the ground.
He was taking down a 6'5" welterweight, bro,
and he was
the tallest welterweight.
And I don't know how to pronounce his name at all, but he's no joke. 20 submissions. He's got knockout power. Joaquin Buckley, when he moved to welterweight, he's been a whole different animal since he moved down to welters. So Joaquin Buckley, he's a name to hear. He's on the rise. He's looked impressive, and like I said, what I like to watch and see from a fighter is, when I'm like, the hole in their game may be on the ground, like Rebellis lost on the ground for the first time in his career. He lost, and it was because his ground game was exposed last night. It's like Joaquin Buckley, it's like, well, this could be a hole in his game, but then he just goes out and he just out wrestles a guy who's a great fighter on the ground, Sambo guy. So, it was insane.
Right. Nala, you want some airtime today or what? You gonna take over the podcast? Do we have our guest? Do we have a guest this episode? What you got? What you got for us today, Nala?
And speaking of, today is Mother's Day. So shout out to all the moms out there. Shout out to my mom. Shout out to my grandma. And everybody's mom. A lot of great mothers out there. So happy Mother's Day to you guys.
Be grateful for your mother. I mean, at the time of this recording, it is Mother's Day. When you hear it, it'll be a few days later. Just appreciate your moms, you guys. I mean, they put you in this world. Every mom out there just deserves the utmost respect.
Yeah,
every mom, grandmother, aunt, they're incredible. I mean, they're the next level. Like, we talk about the UFC fighters and put them on a high pedestal. UFC fighters are here. Mothers are like up here.
And we wouldn't have UFC fighters without moms.
Right. We wouldn't have listeners without moms. You wouldn't have me and Jude without moms.
So, yeah. And they are great at supporting people that's up and coming. So, shout out to all the moms out there.
Shout out to all the moms, most definitely. And the hot moms, too. But that's...
Yeah.
Oh, man. But no, man. I mean, what you got for us, Jude? I could tell you look like you're kind of itching to say something else over there a little bit.
Now, I'm fixing to jump to a whole different subject, but I've been wanting to break this down on the podcast, and you have an interesting take.
You're talking about.
You have an interesting take on this too, with the Paulo Costa thing, and I'm gonna let you speak on that after. But a lot of people's ruling Dustin Poirier out of this Islam fight, and I know I've been silly and said that he's going to jump the Gillies. And no, I did not even mean to do that. I just did that live. Don't be silly, jump the Gillies.
That was kind of nice.
I didn't mean to do it.
But you kind of changed it up.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to be silly, but I said he's going to jump the Gillies. Like, that was kind of tough.
But yeah, I did not mean to do that. But out of all seriousness, I do believe Dustin Poirier could win this fight because I was doing some research. I was going back watching all the Islam fights.
First of all, before you get into it, I'm very sorry to interrupt
you're good. You're good.
This is one of the greatest, Jude dug deep to find this. So if you guys are listening and don't actually hear this out, you're screwed. Because this is one of the greatest UFC takes that I've heard in a very long time. And Jude did a lot of research to prepare this take and to get it out to you guys. And I think it's incredible. And I don't really think he's going to miss with this one. So go ahead with that being said.
So with that being said, I'm looking back and I'm like, what is something? Let's be serious here and let's see. Does Dustin Poirier actually have a shot in this? He did good against Khabib, but he gave up the back. Okay, so let's see. Does Dustin Poirier do good against orthodox fighters? Because Islam's orthodox and Dustin Poirier is a southpaw. So I go look. Poirier's got a good record against orthodox fighters. He knocks a lot of orthodox fighters out, and that's not something that's new. the southpaw typically holds the advantage over the orthodox. It's something that's unique. You don't see as many southpaws as orthodox. The orthodox is more normal. So I go look at Islam, and I'm like, he's got one loss on his resume. So let me go look at his one loss, and let's go look at all his wins. I see the one loss is a southpaw fighter by knockout. I go back and watch the fight. He looks very uncomfortable against the southpaw. Then I'm like, okay, let's go watch some of his more recent fights. I go look, there's no other southpaws that he's fought. Well, I watched the Volk fight. Volk is switching stances a lot. And when he's switching to the southpaw stance, I'm noticing he's very open to a lot of hooks coming from Volk. And Volk's landing a lot from the southpaw. So I'm like, man, his only loss is to a southpaw fighter. Volk was landing a lot of shots in the first fight when he was switching to southpaw, and even in the second fight, even though it ended quick. When you get in the southpaw, Islam's not comfortable fighting there. I think he'll do a good job preparing, but we'll see. So I really believe, with that being said, I really believe that Islam is very uncomfortable fighting southpaws. He hasn't seen it a lot, and I think that Dustin Poirier could get him by knockout.
I mean, Jude just laid it all on the line for you guys.
And you saw Dustin Poirier against Benoit. Benoit, I believe, is a better. I think that Islam is better on the ground as a whole, but as far as wrestling, Benoit is super strong, one of the strongest guys. It's so hard to get up when he gets you down, and Poirier made it look easy in that fight. He was getting up back to the feet against Benoit.
Even giving up his back two or three times in that fight.
But he was doing it and getting up,
Slipped right out.
So I think that he really has a shot to beat Islam. Everybody's ruling him out. I think that he can definitely win. I think that everybody's writing him off, but I don't think Poirier is going to write back like Gino said. So hopefully I'll be right on that.
I mean, I like I said, leading into that take, I think it's one of the greatest UFC takes that I've heard over recency. Recently, I think that's one of the best UFC takes I've heard. And I think that with the statistics Jude laid out, also a known UFC statistic, 63 to 65% of the time when there's a southpaw versus orthodox, the southpaw comes out on top.
And another thing going in that fight that you brought up, I did not even realize this, and it's kind of out now, but the Paulo Costa curse that you're going to talk about here in a second.
Right. Wait, the Paulo Costa curse. Which one? No. I'm sorry. I had a mind fart. I know exactly what I was going into right here. Every single Paulo Costa fight that he's been on the main card in the last 5 or 6 fights, I think it was, the underdog won.
Yeah,
in the championship fight.
Yeah,
it was a new champion crowned every single Paulo Costa, either co-main or main card fight that he was on when there was a championship belt on the line.
So yeah,
I mean, I think the stars are really aligning for the Louisiana boy. I think it's looking good. I mean, I'm sorry I had the brain fart right there. Couldn't think about what my take was. Then it came back to me. That's my take. I mean, it's not even just a take. It's statistically real. Look this stuff up. The things Jude's saying over here, statistically, it's real. Look it up. Like, all you have to do, if you're out there listening, just do a little digging. You're gonna find that what Jude and I are saying has truth behind it. And then you're going to realize, like we've said in previous episodes, you're going to come back and be like, oh shit, I've heard that before. Then you're going to realize, oh, those 2 experts over there at Outside the Octagon, they told us that. And we're experts. Wouldn't you say? I don't know why you're laughing.
I would definitely like to think that. So.
No, we're not thinking. We are experts around here. The Outside the Octagon guys and Green Check guys as well are experts at what we do. We study our field. We know our field pretty well. Even though, like I said, I just had a little brain fart on my take, I still got it down. I still got it. But since we're kind of doing a little bit more on the early side of predicting for 302, I think we should talk about the Paulo Costa Strickland fight. And I've kind of given my take before on it in a previous episode, like 2 episodes ago. But I still kind of think I stand strong on where I was. Paulo Costa, high energy fighter at the beginning. Sean Strickland, low energy at the beginning, saves it towards the end. We haven't seen a lot of Paulo Costa in a 5-round fight lately. I don't know how he's going to be able to perform in those championship rounds. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it into the 5th round with Sean Strickland. And Sean Strickland is a very big counter defensive fighter. He fights off the counter. He fights off his back foot very well. Philly shells it up, takes a couple shots, shoulder rolls a couple, and then comes over with a right. You know, I mean, that's what the guy does. Low output fighter at the beginning, high output towards the end. Versus a high output at the beginning, low output towards the end. I think that the stars are kind of aligning here for Strickland to get a win as long as he could stay in there with Paulo Costa for the first 3 rounds. Now, I think if Paulo Costa hits Sean Strickland with that spinning heel kick that he put on Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland might be catching some early Z's. He might be getting a little sleep that night.
Yeah, that's the trick. Can he make it? Can he make it that far? Because, I mean, you saw him get caught against Pereira. Costa's got that power, dude.
Oh, he's got it.
He's got that one-punch power. I mean, you can look at the guy. He's absolutely real.
He's probably the most aesthetic fighter out there on the entire roster. Yeah, as far as his build.
No Diddy, he's a good-looking guy.
Right.
You know?
Right. I mean, no Diddy for sure, but I mean, Paulo Costa is one of the most aesthetic fighters. The next guy in line, though, I mean, I didn't even realize how aesthetic that this guy was and how absolutely ripped he was. But we kind of talked about him a minute ago. Joaquin Buckley is absolutely freaking shredded, dude. Shredded. Like, he's almost like Yoel Romero of the welterweights, in my opinion. Like, he's close to that level of shredded. Like, he didn't even look real. He looked like a Roblox character or something.
We may have to go into that on the next episode. We may have to do a little breakdown of
like
most aesthetic fighters.
Let's go like our top 10 aesthetic fighters.
Yeah.
I like that. Next episode, we'll have top 10 aesthetic fighters. Or actually episode after next. Because next episode, we are hopefully, if all goes well, going to have a very big guest for you guys. Jude knows. I know who it is. I'm going to hold it off for you guys for just a little bit. As soon as we get it official and get a date set, I'll be able to publicize that information to you guys. I'm just not trying to close any doors that haven't been completely opened yet.
But it is looking like maybe a UFC fighter.
Very high-end UFC fighter. A name that a lot of you guys know and a name that a lot of people respect. And this person is definitely on the rise.
And we have a lot of big guests planned. You guys can't see what's going on behind closed curtains, behind closed doors. But we're putting in a lot of work, putting in a lot of hours, just trying to make this podcast the best that it can be and get a lot of great fighters so you can hear their story.
Right. I mean, after the last episode, we put in probably 2 hours looking at the entire roster of UFC trying to find guests. And I mean, we got a couple of hits back here and there. We're getting the DMs flooded a little bit. Like I like them, you know. Yeah,
your wife is in my DM.
I need that soundbite, bro. I need that soundbite to throw that in there. But no, man. I mean, outside the Octagon's on a rise, the UFC's on a rise. I think we got a lot of great guests in store for you guys for future episodes. I think me and Jude have a lot of great things to speak about. I think the video ideas are steady rolling in. I think I would be really appreciative, if you guys out there that are listening, I would really appreciate if you could just drop a comment on our YouTube videos after you see us drop a podcast. Just drop a comment. Tell us something you'd like to hear us talk about in the next episode. And we'll definitely cover it. That will be no issue for Jude and I.
And give us some giveaway ideas so we can get back to you guys.
Right. I mean, I'm open to all ideas.
Yeah, we really...
Unless they involve Diddy.
Yeah.
No Diddy.
Yeah, no Diddy. But no, we got a lot of great stuff planned for you guys. Like we've said over and over again, you guys mean the world to us. So we want to give back and give you the best podcast and give you guys rewards for watching the podcast and helping us grow. And we're growing at a rapid pace right now. We've never seen these numbers before. It's really growing and getting big right now. So
right. And I mean, the only thing that Jude and I ask out of you guys in return, spread the word a little bit about us. And for the love of God, just hit the subscribe button. I see all these YouTubers talking about, it's like 85% of you guys watching are not subscribed. I'm like, they're lying. They're making that shit up. No, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not. And click one button.
And
one button for me.
The thing is, when we start really making money, we're not still going to be making money because we're going to give so much to you guys. We're going to give so much in the way of this new soundboard and new computers, new technology advancements to make the videos better. Also, we're going to be giving back to you guys literally, so through giveaways and stuff like that. So if you help us grow, I promise you it's going to pay you back. and it's going to pay us back. So it's just going to be great for the podcast in general, because we're up and coming, and we're going to be there soon.
Right.
I can feel it, you know?
And I mean, like Jude and I say at the end of every episode, and we're getting ready to wrap up here today. I mean, I love everybody that listens to this thing, man. And I mean, there's probably people that listen to this thing that I don't actually know their name, or maybe I do, and I don't like you as a person. But I love you because you're listening to my podcast. Thank you so much. And you know what? Even if I don't like you, I'll still love you, because Jesus tells me I have to. And I love Jesus too.
Yes, sir.
God,
definitely, for sure.
God bless America. God bless our troops. Gentlemen, start your engines.
Yeah. And without Jesus, none of this would be possible. So
right. I mean, we give the shout out to the mothers, but without Jesus, there is no mothers. Jesus, I mean,
yeah, one more shout out
guy.
to the mom. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms listening. We shout out multiple times, but I just want to say that one more time before we cap this off. You know, thankful to all you guys. So.
Right. Mama, if you're listening, which I know you are, because you're my biggest fan and you're my number one supporter.
Yes,
I love
sir.
you, Mom. I love you. And I appreciate you. And thank you for doing everything you've done for me. Thank you for getting me to this point. Jude and I are both very grateful for our mothers. Jude, I mean, you got a pretty cool mom too. You got a, you know, I'm not gonna say. I was gonna say her name, but I don't want to say her name.
I don't know about all the time, but most.
I mean, yeah,
of the time.
same for me. You know, maybe there's a little couple bumps in the road. Same with doing a podcast. It's the same with anything, man. I mean, we had our bump in the road a couple weeks ago with the podcast. Weren't able to get an episode out. I was freaking tweaking because I couldn't get something out. Like I got the itch, man. You know, like this podcast, this rise that we're on, it's like a hard drug, bro. Like I just got to keep getting more of it.
Oh, we're gonna be there very soon. Like I said, all thanks to everybody watching, Jesus moms, you know, all of that. So, you know, that's all I really got to say. I feel like it was a great episode. I think we're gonna continue to rise. This episode could be the one. Hop on the train before it's too late.
Right. I mean,
hop on the bandwagon.
Are you with us or not? I mean, the bandwagon hasn't fully started yet, but it ain't far away. So jump on the train now while you can, or get left behind, baby. Outside the Octagon's on the rise, and we ain't coming down.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Anyways, you guys, follow us on Instagram at outside the Octagon pod _ Thank you so much for listening, and we will be back with another episode for you next Friday. Again, thank you so much for listening, Jude. Thank you for being here to the left of me yet again. Thank you for not missing out on the episode so far. And that's it. That's a wrap. I mean, great job today, Jude.
Yes, sir.